This is the Business Storytelling Show with Christoph Trapp. Named a top 20 storytelling podcast and a top 5% podcast globally, Christoph chats with thought leaders and experts to share tips and tricks that can help you tell your company's stories better to drive business results. Available wherever you listen to podcasts, live streamed on major social media channels, and part of the DB&A television network, available on most U.S. television sets and streaming on Roku and Amazon Fire. Here's Christoph with today's episode. Let's go.
Let's go, storytellers. What's happening today? I'm your host, Christoph Trapp, another episode here. And today we want to talk about a new book just came out, Sway by Christina Del Villar. And I read it. Fantastic book. And here's what I like about the book. First of all, it gives you some tips. But before it gives you tips that I don't know if I'm going to need them, it really gets you riled up about all the problems that are happening. So that is fantastic writing, fantastic content marketing, I guess, right? If you don't even believe a problem exists, why would you even try to fix it? So certainly lots of things I can relate to. So today's guest is the author. The book is coming out here pretty shortly. It is available for pre-order. Christina, welcome to the show. It's good to see you.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Fantastic. So tell me about the book. Why did you start writing it? And I mean, where did you learn how to get people like me riled up like that?
Yeah, it's interesting. It really turned out to be a call to arms for marketing folks, but marketing and sales professionals in corporations. For me, I've been in marketing for the past 30 years, and there's been a lot of great things, a lot of good technologies, a lot of good processes and strategy. But what I found was that marketing is still undervalued, and I was trying to find a way to help marketing professionals in particular show the value that they have, show the impact that they have. And so to your point, the first part is just to recognize that there is a problem. There's a problem with marketing being recognized for what it's doing, the impact that it's having on revenue, that sort of thing. And then what I wanted to do was lay out a framework and a plan for people so that they can start building internally trust and influence so they can actually have more impact on those strategic goals, the go-to-market strategies, and the overall revenue results for the company as well.
It's always interesting to me when people talk about, marketing is the first to go. We don't need marketing or whatever.
Right.
It's kind of like saying, I can eat junk food today. I don't need to eat healthy to stay healthy. And that's true short term, but it's not true long term.
And it's not. And again, you can do some things short term. I call it put yourself in maintenance mode, but really marketing is the sort of the underbelly of every company, right? Like we own the website, we own the content, we own the brand, we own the programs. We're responsible for that top of the funnel and making sure those leads get through the funnel and quality. And along the way, and this is part of what the book talks about, is we help product define what that product should look like, what features and functionalities we should be looking at, what our customers are looking for. We help sales with enablement, whether it's through best practices that we're giving out or case studies, again, sort of defining what that quality lead looks like. And then we also help customer success. I work a lot with B2B companies. These are long-term partnerships and relationships that we have. And if we're not able to keep those customers happy, keep them onboarded and make sure that they're actually using our products, then we have a problem. And marketing plays a huge role in that. But it's a role that's not really seen. People just sort of see us as those, fun program, we're going to do a webinar, we're going to make a t-shirt type folks, when in fact we do a lot throughout the organization. And to your point, it's okay maybe short term or for a short period of time to either reduce the resources that marketing has, but longer term you're really going to lose momentum as a company. And so you need to keep that momentum going. And I really felt that was really one of the reasons why I wanted to write this book, is to really help marketing people understand they do their job, they do it really well, but they're having problems articulating exactly what it is that they're doing. Again, the impact that they're having on the bottom line and what they're bringing to the table. So I wanted to help them with that.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So we did actually have Katie, I think it was Katie Burnett from Lessonly on the show, and we talked about swag, whether you need swag or not. And I think if you create good swag, I think it's not bad to have something that people can wear and
Right.
use or whatever, if it's good, right? I mean, there's a lot of
Right.
crappy stuff out there.
Right.
But when you said that, the trigger word to me was copywriting as a service, production as a service, anything as a service, right? So
Right.
people fly by and they say, Christoph, I need an update to the website. Christoph, I need an
Oh
update.
my gosh.
I need a
Yep.
t-shirt. Hey,
Yep.
I'm not a designer, but flying by the designer and hey,
Yeah.
make this look pretty. That's not
Right.
strategic. I mean, is that part of the problem why marketers are struggling?
Huge. And as a matter of fact, I didn't write this in the book, which maybe my next book I will. But there was a time when my team was really struggling, and they're like, we're not able to, get our job done. We have this strategy that we're trying to get to. We have our goals, and we keep getting interrupted. So I said, okay, for 1 week, I want you all to just literally track every interruption that you have, as small as it is, from, oh, I need a t-shirt, or, oh, hey, I'm just swinging by. Can you print something for me? Or, these, what I call these, it'll only take 5-minute projects, or worse, when the CEO pops in and is like, hey, I've got this great idea. And it's going to be bad. But all of those add up. And so my team came back. It was a week, 5 days of recording this, and the average number of interruptions they had, each person, was 200 interruptions a week. And how can you be productive? How can you be laser focused on the strategy, the corporate strategy, and your goals, and the things that you're actually being reviewed on? And so literally a lot of it has to do with understanding what the strategy is, aligning with that, and making sure that everything you do is really focused on that, and also learning how to say no, empowering yourself to say no, which I think is really key for a lot of marketing professionals. And that's okay, especially if you have that alignment and collaboration. You can easily say, you know what, totally get that, but I don't have time for that right now because I'm focused on this program that's supposed to bring in X amount of revenue, or whatever that is. So it's kind of giving marketing folks permission to be focused and say no when they need to do that.
Yeah, being able to say no, that's always an interesting discussion too, because people expect certain things, and next week we have a show. We talk about the sales and marketing alignment, and it's always interesting because yes, we all want to make more money, but there is a method to the madness. And when you talk about the interruptions, I mean, that's especially when you create content, when you're preparing for something. I mean, constant interruptions won't help you produce anything, right? So how do we get away from that? How do we change? How do we change that mindset?
It's a great question. So there's a process in the book that it walks everybody through, and it starts with what I call touch points. So it's literally regardless of which organization you're in. So I think about it from the standpoint of there's product, marketing, sales, and customer success, sort of to dummy it down. Obviously, there's a lot more in a company that goes into that. But if you're in one of those organizations, you first need to think about what it is that you're doing, all the different things you do on a daily basis. And then you need to make sure that you're getting rid of all the things that are not pushing you towards that ultimate goal, which is usually a revenue target. And then you need to prioritize those, right? So you can even say, well, it's really important that we have this case study, but that case study is going to take X amount of time or X amount of resources. So I need to sort of deprioritize that, or divest in things as well. So you need to look at what you're doing, make sure that it's aligned with that strategy, and then prioritize. But then you need to work with all of those other teams, right? And in context, I think what happens is, as much as we say we're not siloed, we really are siloed. And it's really important to sort of get out of that mindset and think again, not that you're in the product team or the marketing team or the sales team, but you're part of this go-to-market strategy team, because that's what's really going to make the difference. You're going to be able to collaborate better. You're going to be able to be aligned a lot better. And I think a lot of what's missing is that context, right? So if a salesperson comes to you and says, oh my gosh, I've got this huge meeting, I need a t-shirt, like otherwise the sales not going to go through, I don't know. And you can simply say, I get that, but so I can either go, get interrupted and get your t-shirt, or I can focus on this case study that you've been asking for. So like which one is going to, at the end of the day, net us more revenue and quality leads? And so I think that that's what's really important, is to start having those conversations. And so the book really does get into building that trust and building that influence internally, so that you can have those, really honest conversations.
Well, what's interesting about that too, I need this case study. I mean, don't get me started. Why do you need a case study? This is like the CEO that used to ask me, this is many, many years ago. I need this trifold brochure. I'm like, who in the world actually looks to a trifold brochure?
Right.
Now, people read it, fine. But how do you
Great.
know they do? I know for a fact when salespeople send me a PowerPoint or whatever, I hardly ever watch it. Now, I do need to give a shout out to Marcus Sheridan. He was on the show before, and he wrote The Visual Sale. And, you know, basically he says salespeople should do videos. And I would watch those videos for a large purchase. But it's easier, right? Like it's watching a video, listening to a podcast, listening to a live stream doesn't feel as much like school as reading a very formal white paper or whatever.
Right. Yeah, it's not really being forced down you either. Like, this is what I want you to hear, right? It's more conversational and relationship building, I think. So I think that is critical. And I do think that thinking about whether it's your content strategy is huge, right? Because again, everybody can ask you for, I need a case study that's very specific to this one customer that I'm trying to win. And that doesn't make sense, right? Like, what are your overall messages? What are you trying to articulate? And then can we build one case study that touches upon all of that? Or if you have different audiences in your buying process, which a lot of us do, and we have up to like 17 different people in there, whether it's, the CFO, the end user, the IT, whoever's going to do the integrations, like what is the message that they want to hear? And then take that one piece that you have, that case study or that pillar white paper, and then tweak it for those different audiences. So I get into that a lot in the book about, repeat, reuse, repurpose, recycle content so that you're not always creating new content. And I think that there's this misnomer, particularly for executives, that if you're creating content, we're doing something right. And that's not necessarily always the case. You want to be really smart about content. Like I said, I'd rather create like one webinar and turn that into 100 different pieces, blog post, social media post, a white paper, an infographic, whatever I need to do. Then I have this consistent message that I can use, whether it's for the quarter or the year, or whatever. And instead of like building 100 different pieces, it just doesn't make sense.
I mean, you won't get any argument from me on that. That's my philosophy as well, right? We do a live stream, we do a podcast, we put it on the DBNA television network, which goes to Roku and Amazon and I don't know what else. I think those might be it. It's available on demand on Roku. So then we might write about it, right? There's some article. And the other thing I do a lot more of now, I mean, once you have 7 years of content under your belt on the current blog, there's a lot of stuff I can just update, right? So instead of just writing a new article, every time you do anything, what can you update? Now, walk me through your formula.
Also, you can also take all of those and like aggregate it too, right? So, you don't just have to take one. You can take different pieces. Like I want to focus on, whatever ROI, for example. So then you can go back through, the 7 years that you have and find the 10 top tips for ROI and create a piece on that. And it just makes sense to reuse and leverage what you already have. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's fine, but that's a good discussion, and that's really a good point. When Seth Godin was on the show, he basically talked about creativity, right? And so did 3 other people. And so what I did, I just wrote one article about creativity, and I quoted those 4 people in one article. I didn't do here's the show notes page that some of you may or may not read. So it's very interesting. I admit I don't mind updating content, but as a former journalist, it does not come natural because you want to create new content, right? Journalists are not trained to update old content. Journalists are trained to create new content. So
it's a good point. And you can add pieces to that though, right? Or maybe you're repositioning it for a new audience or a new channel. So, you can definitely like just dust it off and say, hey, I pulled this out of the archive vault and didn't do anything to it, which is fine as well. But even to your point, if your point is to reposition something, then it makes sense to update it, even just a little bit, or refine it a little bit. Otherwise, just call it what it is. Like, hey, I didn't have any content this week, so I'm pulling this back out.
So what's interesting about that too, let's not go too far down this rabbit hole, but it's a good rabbit hole, an important one. I actually updated an article the other day, and it was something about, the old article focused on being on a blogging schedule, which seemed to work back then. It performed pretty well. But I updated the article with 2 things. I did some copy editing, minor stuff. It's like 2,000 words maybe now. Maybe I wrote 100 new words roughly. And I changed everything to why your content creation strategy needs to do whatever. And in the first 2 days, the updated version had more views than the article had in 6 years.
Wow.
So my point is, it wasn't performing bad to begin with, but
Right.
just updating it, right? Pushing it back in front of people.
Yeah.
Flipboard certainly helped on this case. But the
Yeah.
point is, if you have old content, if you update it, you don't have to rewrite it too much if it's not necessary. But
Yeah.
it is a good strategy.
Definitely.
So let's talk about your formula. Let me kind of run
Yeah.
me through that.
Yeah, so I call there's a couple of different components to it. I call it the GRIT marketing method, and as part of that, we talked about the touch points a little bit already. Those are things that you're going to want to identify that you own and that other teams own, and then prioritize those. But the key thing is what I'm trying to help people understand is they need to build what I call a map of influence, and so I go through this GRIT marketing method to do that. And the G in GRIT stands for go to market strategy. The R stands for RPM, which is repeatable, predictable, and measurable content strategy. The I stands for intent or intention, and the T is the technology and tools to basically develop and implement that. And so the core piece, though, is that go-to-market strategy. I feel really strongly that marketing should actually own the go-to-market strategy, as well as own the revenue target. I mean, we basically do that anyway. We just don't. We're not given kind of credit for it. We're not given the resources to really make that happen. And so this formula really helps people understand, again, like what it means to develop a solid go-to-market strategy, and then all of the different areas where marketing is already doing things within that. And then again, kind of going back to that, how do you prioritize? Because what this map of influence does is it shows you, and again, it doesn't matter if you're in marketing or sales or product, you can build this out for yourself, your team, the company. It really shows you, again, what you need to be focused on, and who are all the other players that might be involved in that. And that's where you're starting to look at that influence. So for example, if you're thinking about like a customer success program, a lot of companies, again, they have like multi-year contracts with these companies and these customers, and we don't do a really good job of marketing to those customers. So how can we talk to customer success about what our customers are doing? Are they using the product? Are they using it as intended? Are we going to have issues when it comes time to renew, right? These are all things we need to be thinking about and talking to customer success about, and then taking that information back to product to make sure that the product is that we're building the right product, we're building the right features and functionality. Then there's all kinds of things with pricing. Sales needs to set expectations, so marketing needs to make sure that the content we're developing does that. But again, you can see just with something as simple as making sure that your customers are actually using the product as intended, everybody within the organization should be involved in that. And if you don't have that influence, it was interesting. I was talking to a friend of mine who is in customer, she's head of customer success, and she was saying that she's been trying forever to get product to implement this one feature that it's literally like almost all of their tickets are based on this one issue that the customers are having. And for whatever reason, product isn't, it's not top of their mind, or it's not in their roadmap. And so I told her to start talking to marketing and sales instead. And so they went through this process of doing that. And then sales went to product and said, we need this, and this is why. And then marketing said, this is how we can take this to market. And so product reprioritized that and put that in the roadmap. But it was really important. Like literally, they can, if you can't automate that, cut the tickets that they're getting, you really should look at your product anyway. They were just having a hard time getting product to understand why this was critical. So it took the entire team, that entire go-to-market team, if you will, to get that feature reprioritized. And so you start thinking about like, what else is there? And that's just like one, tiny, not tiny, but it was significant for them, but one small piece where you can start having that influence and really working together more collaboratively. And if you do that, I mean, not only are you as an individual going to be successful, your team's going to be successful, but your company, like the amount of revenue that you can really realize if you do this. Like I've seen it, anywhere from 2 to 5 to 10 times revenue just by, and again, it sounds kind of common sense, but by collaborating and aligning and working together. Again, I think we still are working in silos, which it just happens. And I think with COVID, with remote work, that didn't help, that much. But without that, you can either be stagnant or, again, kind of go in maintenance mode or have a slow growth. But if you want exponential growth, you really need to be aligned and collaborating together.
So why are these teams not collaborating? I mean, is this to get influence? Is it top up or is it bottom down? Right. I mean, if I come in, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I mean, so if I go into a company, right, and the CEO out of the gate says, "Ugh, marketing sucks" or whatever, like, how are you ever going to gain trust? Do you know what I mean? Like, if for some reason they hired a CMO and the CEO didn't want to hire that person anyways, or the role, not even about. I had a CEO say to me one time, I said, "Well, here's what I think you have to do," and the CEO said, "Oh, I don't want to do any of that. I just need leads." And I'm like, you literally, I think this was in your book where you said, fine, you want leads, go buy an email list. And now you got 17,000 leads, but that's not going to help you as much.
Yeah, it's a good point. And so 17,000 leads, it's a key piece to the book, and it goes throughout the book. And this happened. I was in a board meeting and I had this amazing presentation. My team had done an amazing job with the programs. We hit all of our targets. We hit our revenue target. So I was really excited to be in this board of directors meeting and ready to go. And I was like ready to start. And this board member goes, "We need 17,000 leads." And I literally was like, what? Like, what does that even mean? Like, what do you mean 17,000 leads? So we got through that. It took a little while, and I was able to show, what we actually had done. But there's just this misperception about like what a lead is and how you get them and the quality of leads. And then oftentimes marketing ends up as a scapegoat when these 17,000 mystery leads aren't performing. So, and it's interesting because when I started to develop this book, my goal was actually to write a book for the C-suite and executives and board of directors to help them understand the importance of marketing and setting the marketing teams up for success, which had to do, again, with making sure that we had a go-to-market strategy and that we were all aligned and collaborating. And I talked to several of my CEO friends and C-suite friends, and they were like, "Yeah, that's totally awesome. Great that you're writing a book. We'll read your book." And then I was like, "Well, and then you'll, kind of take all that and, apply it." And they're like, "Nah, we hate marketing." And I'm like, "Great." So what I ended up doing was I wrote it from the perspective of the marketing professional. Like, these are things you can do as a marketing professional. Again, it's going to take time, but like, start gaining that trust, start building that influence, and then together you can kind of go forth and conquer, and really realize those ultimate goals, which again is usually revenue for a company. But yeah, I totally agree. It is, it's hard. It's kind of one of those things where until you sort of see it in action, you're not going to buy into it. And so that's why I flipped it and really hope that marketing professionals and sales and product teams can take a look at this and apply it and start like going from bottom up, unfortunately. But I think that's what we have to do right now.
Unfortunately, maybe some of those leaders will become CEOs one of these days. I just read CMO to CRO, which is, one of my pet peeves always is about how come the sales leader is in charge of marketing? They know nothing about marketing. I think part of it is because what people typically do is they apply what they know to whatever they don't know that's new, right? It was with TV. When TV came about, everybody thought of it as like radio.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. I had a finance guy say to me, so in my content performance culture, I measure content like this, 30 days rolling or 3 months rolling or something like that. But it's never a calendar month.
Right.
And a finance guy said to me, "Why is it not a calendar month? We don't have a budget 30 days rolling. We have a budget." And I said, here's the reason why. Because the dollar you get on the first of the month is the same value as the dollar you get on the 30th day of the month. Same revenue. But the content I push out or I update or whatever on the 30th of the month doesn't have the same value as the content on the first day of the month, which is why you have to have a rolling model. And it's just, I think it's really hard for people to apply new things to their world.
It's a really good point. I think they don't understand it to begin with, and then you're saying, you're trying to get them to apply this, sort of philosophy. And again, it's interesting because, and I know you've heard it, and your audience has heard it, a million times. It's like what everybody focuses on is leads, because that's what they know, and that's kind of like this common denominator. And like literally, they don't even like recognize all of the different things that marketing is involved in. There's some example out there, like if you take everything away, like this is what you would have left. If you did that with marketing, you take the website away, you take the brand away, you take the voice away, you take the content away, you take all the tools that enable sales to sell, you take, all the best practices and webinars and, product, FAQs, you take all of that away. And that's what marketing is responsible for. You take it all away and you really cannot run your company. It would be very difficult.
Well, and don't get me started on FAQs. I think it was Nas Orbina who keeps tweeting this, and he said he'll do it until the end of time. FAQs is not a customer thing. No customer goes around and says, "What are the FAQs?" Right? They say, "Oh my God, I got to work through my FAQs today." The customers say, "I got a question."
Yeah.
It's
not my frequently asked question, because I'm only going to hopefully ask it once.
Oh my goodness, that's a good one too. I have to share that with Nas. Fantastic, Christina. It was great to have you on the show. Really appreciate you making the time. The book, it's available on Amazon. Sway: Implement the G.R.I.T Marketing Method to Gain Influence and Drive Corporate Strategy. In maybe 30 seconds, tell me, I know it's bottom up, but when you get a new job, it's important to have the right leader, right? Don't go into a place where they're not really interested, or they're expecting 20,000 leads, and then they don't give you the money to buy the email list that you need to buy to get those 20,000 leads.
Yep. It's important to ask the right questions to make sure that they're committed. I think even a broader, you can just, make sure that they're committed to a go-to-market strategy, and then you can start working backwards from there.
Sounds simple enough, but we all know it's not. Thank you for joining us today. Thanks everyone for watching.
Thank you.
That's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in. Please rate and review our show on your favorite podcast channels. And don't forget to share this episode with your networks. We appreciate you. Until next time, let the best stories win.